Hello there all you absolutely magnificent people, and welcome back to another episode of An Ecologist Plays. If you are new to the channel, my name is Will, I'm an ecologist by training, and this is the channel where we talk about nature while playing games. And if you are a returning viewer, of course, welcome to you as well. So here it is everybody, Grounded 2 has officially launched into early access, so I'm going to be doing a playthrough as Pete, and Pete in my game at least has become a bit of an ecology nerd. So we are going to be encountering a whole bunch of plants and animals in this playthrough. I am going to try and keep it spoiler free, so I'm not going to show you the story things. That I will leave for when Nick and I actually do a live stream playthrough of this game. But for now it's just myself playing this, and I will be doing a bit more of a spoiler free playthrough. So without any further ado, let's actually jump right in, shall we? Now, because this is a new game, I'm going to just play on medium difficulty for now. When Nick and I do the live stream playthrough, we'll probably play it on WoW mode again, but for now it is just medium difficulty. And of course, we are going to be choosing Pete over here.
Hi there, I'm Pete. I know all about arthropods.
And you know, that just perfectly summarizes how I'm going to be playing this game. Know all about arthropods. Right, so let's actually jump right in, shall we? So there we go, Brookhollow Park. This is going to be our playground for this playthrough, and we are in an Omni research facility again. Now, I'm not going to be showing you the majority of the things we're going to do in here, but I do want to quickly just mention that we've got, there we go.
Of the Carboniferous era.
Exactly, cockroaches. So there is an adult cockroach there, and it seems as though this adult here has some parental care, because look at that, there is a nymph as well. So that's a larva right over there, a young one. And there are two more up there. The cockroaches generally will lay quite a lot of eggs, generally clustered together. They then hatch more or less at the same time, and then it seems this cockroach here has some parental care sticking around, trying to protect the nymphs against anything trying to eat them. Not that the cockroach may necessarily, in real life at least, be able to do a lot against a predator trying to eat the cockroach babies, but this one at least is trying her best. Now, the fact that we do have an adult cockroach here with some young, it's actually not entirely unexpected. There are a few species that actually carry around the ootheca, which would be the egg case. So the females produce this ootheca and then carries it around, generally sticking out along the backside here of the female. And actually this has been going on for quite a long time. There is actually a fossil from China that was only found a few years ago, and that fossil is about 125 million years old, showing a female cockroach walking around with that ootheca stuck on her backside. So sometimes that isn't even really the case. The female just lays the eggs and abandons them, but sometimes she will actually carry around the ootheca. But in some species, the mother will actually regurgitate food for the young ones as well, allowing them to, very importantly, get microorganisms for their gut. And that is more important in some of your wood-eating species, such as the Pennsylvanian wood cockroach, where they need the gut microorganisms to help break down things like cellulose, which they cannot break down themselves. So it's quite amazing. Maybe there is a bit of parental care here with a mother cockroach and her babies. Nonetheless, quite cool. We are going to be fighting cockroaches as we progress in the series. I can't say I'm looking forward to that. Although I will try to avoid major spoilers, there are some things that you are probably going to pick up as we go along, and maybe some Easter eggs I will point out along the way as well. But I'm going to try to avoid the major story spoilers. But just for interest's sake, you may be aware that Omni apparently is not evil this time around. We'll see whether that is the case or not. But I mean, looking at the Employee of the Month posters over here, it's quite funny. They're always referred to as employee number this and number that, never names given. This person actually lived to be the ripe old age of 45 years, which is, yeah, that's good. Died in 1992 when this game is actually set. Then there is employee number 555, missing in action. Currently unknown where this person is. And then we've got these two employees. This one over here, employee 962, also died in 1992, so quite a high jump there within a year period. And look what is behind her. Oh, those are spider eyes right there. Oh dear, oh dear. And then on the right hand side here as well, also someone from the domestication program, also died in 1992. And well, look at that. So those eyes there appear to be the eye pattern of wolf spiders. So the wolfie most likely got employee number 607. Could also be what got employee number 962. But I can't really say for sure. It does look like there are those two big eyes, and then it appears to be some smaller eyes below there. So I think this most likely was also the wolf spider, unless there is something bigger. So there we go. After completing the training, we are finally going into Brookhollow Park. And this will be the place we explore for our playthrough here. Now, you know, it sounds like a lot of fun to be shrunk down to the size of an ant, running around the undergrowth, looking at weevils and ants and grubs and all these amazing little critters while being their size. But this is actually bad. Not least of which, you know, all the predators such as wolf spiders and orb weavers and all those lovely things trying to eat you. But just staying alive would be more difficult than we generally imagine, because shrinking down to this size will mean that our surface area to volume ratio actually increases drastically. The smaller you are, the larger your surface area to volume ratio. And there's a little aphid, a little guy.
Right? Another one for the compendium.
Yes, there we go. And the thing with your surface area to volume ratio is that the higher that is, the faster you are losing heat relative to the heat you can actually produce in your cells. So it's not great to be this size. So if we were to be shrunk down to this size, we would have to try and compensate for that loss of heat from our surface area by having a faster metabolism. And that is what you see in many of these small endothermic or warm-blooded vertebrates. You'll see it in the smallest mammal on Earth, the Etruscan shrew. You'll see it in things like hummingbirds, like the bee hummingbird and the bumblebee hummingbird. And you'll see it in Kitty's hog-nosed bat, which is the smallest bat known to science. Now right over here we have a caterpillar. Oh, it is gorgeous, right? It just says it's a caterpillar, but I'm very sure this is the caterpillar of the Cecropia moth, which is North America's largest indigenous moth. And it is absolutely stunning. I don't think the moth actually is in the game yet, but these caterpillars are just absolutely gorgeous, even if they are experiencing some kind of bug there, glitch. So these knobbly bits over here, you know, you'd think that they are actually like spiky and for protection, but they don't actually serve any defensive purposes, at least not against vertebrate predators. Oh, and thank you, caterpillar. Apparently the bumps don't get you, but the bulky bodies knocking you down can actually result in injury. Oh, but they are absolutely stunning. I will be chatting more about the Cecropia moth and the caterpillars here as we encounter more of them a little bit later on. For now, we do need to get to the ranger station because we need to get our Omni Tool. And here we go, the snack bar outpost right over here. Of course, there is another resource analyzer here where we can analyze a bunch of stuff. And then we need to find a way to get in there. But first, we need to grab our Omni Tool, our all tool.
Ominous take on the Swiss Army knife.
And this, I think, is one of the great changes in Grounded 2 versus Grounded 1. We no longer need to actually carry around all the tools. Instead, we have our Omni Tool, and that will function as all the different tools we need. Now, by default, on the keyboard, it is set to be E to actually use the Omni Tool. Oh, there goes an aphid. I have changed it to G though, because picking up something is already E, and if you have it as E to chop down stems and stuff like that, sometimes when you actually want to pick something up, instead you end up chopping things. You don't always want to do that, so I'd rather switch it over to G as the keybind. Of course, as with Grounded 1, not only can we chop down grasses, we can also chop down some of the weeds. Now we can't yet chop down these husky weeds. I think these are most likely some kind of Portulaca or something in the purslane family, but we can chop down the dandelions, and there is one right over there. But you know, dandelions, such cool things. We'll talk about those seeds up there in a moment. But the name dandelion actually comes from the French word dardelion, and I do apologize profusely. I am not fluent in French, so if I do butcher the pronunciation, please do forgive me. But it's called dandelion, and dandelion means lion's tooth, because of those toothed leaves that the dandelion actually has, which I think is quite cool. Now we are going to chop down these dandelion stems over here, and that's going to give us the little parachutes as well. And we'll get to those in a moment, because they are also amazing. So right over here, we've got the fruit of the dandelion. Now the dandelion flowers, and I can't see the flowers / the inflorescence at the moment, But the flowers, once they're pollinated, they form these balls up there, which are sometimes called clocks. They're also called blow balls because, you can blow into that and then those little seeds blow all over the place. And we generally don't think about it, but these little seeds really are just absolutely stunning. So first of all, this is the entire fruit. They are known as cypselae. And then right at the bottom there is a single seed in the bottom of this fruit over here. And the seed is carried in the wind with wind dispersal, also called anemochory, and it is carried by this tuft of hair that we call the pappus. Let's see if I can explain what happens with these seeds by quickly going down here and just dropping the seed down here. So let's say the seed is being blown off that clock, off that blow ball. And as it falls down in that direction, air is being forced all along the stem over here and up through the pappus at the top here. And what then happens is it creates a vortex above the seed as the seed is falling down. Now that vortex is a low pressure system, and because it is a low pressure system, the seed is constantly pulled up into it. And that allows the dandelion seed to actually float far longer distances than you would expect them to be able to float. So not only are they light and not only do they catch the breeze, they are actually engineered in such a way that they create that low pressure vortex above them, and that actively keeps on pulling the seed higher and higher and higher, allowing it to disperse very, very long distances. And that is just absolutely marvelous. We are just going to pick up the grass planks here and the weed stems, and we're just going to analyze them as well, because this will open up a whole bunch of recipes for us to actually start building our base. And you need to analyze the stem in order to get the stem scaffold and all those lovely things. Now, Tiny Pete is getting extremely thirsty, so we do need to run up here to get a drink. Now, at this size, this is potentially another problem. Yeah, sure, we are very small, so it does mean that we would possibly not be breaking surface tension if we actually walk across water. We could actually walk on top of the water, but if we accidentally get sucked into this droplet of water, for example, it could result in us drowning, as we may not be able to actually break out of that little water droplet. So, being shrunk down to this size would not be fun at all. Due to our increased metabolism, just to stay warm and, not freeze to death, we would have to constantly be eating. We would basically have to consume our body weight every day. It sounds fun initially, and then when you realize that you've got to eat like 80 kilograms or 90 kilograms or 100 kilograms of food every single day, you realize it's going to grow old very, very quickly.
A lifeless body.
Oh,
it makes me uneasy.
Here amongst the mites, we have encountered an ominous employee with some basic equipment on them. Okay, thank you. Now, I have started building a base up there on this route because I thought, this is going to be the place that I'm going to have the smallest ecological impact. I'm not going to impact any creatures trying to walk along here. I'm going to just build up there that will have the smallest environmental impact. Unfortunately, I can't build the floors yet, and I can't build the stairs yet. I need to first unlock those. So what we're going to have to do is to craft a torch, and we'll do that now. And there we go. And then we're just going to go and explore in here, which most likely will have some mites living here. So mites are a type of arachnid. In some cases they are beneficial, in some cases not so much. They are plant pests. If you've had a vegetable garden and you've had red spider mite, for example, or the two-spotted mite, you'll know that they can really be not fun to have in your garden. But being typical arachnids, they will have 8 legs similar to spiders and all other arachnids, but they are in a different group within the arachnids. As we're just going to drink some honeydew here, and also just quickly use a bandage just so we are no longer completely damaged. And there we go, we're on the inside of the ranger station now. And this is the point where I'm just going to skip ahead for you to not spoil anything here. And there we go, the ranger station. This is where we have the science shop, which will allow us now to unlock multi-story bases. So we are going to do that. And it's also where we upgrade our Omni Tool and unlock things like the Omni Shovel, the Omni Hammer, and the Omni Wrench, each time requiring some resources to unlock. And to unlock the Omni Axe, we do need roach chunks and blueberry leather. So we are going to find some blueberries, and of course we are going to encounter and fight those roaches.
Did a decent job.
But first, it's time for Pete to hit the hay. So I do think it's very important to get the shovel, so we are going to go for that in a moment. I also think it's very important to get the Omni hammer here, so we are going to go for both of these. We just need 2 pebblets still, and we need 1 grass seed in order to actually unlock those. Now the pebblets are just kind of lying around all over the show, so that's not too difficult to get. Right over there's one, and another one right over there. We just have to constantly block against the mites launching at us. Now in order to get the grass seeds, we need to look for these grasses with these tufts at the top there. What we're actually looking at there are the grass flowers, or in this case the flowers have already been pollinated and they are producing seeds. So each of those little things there we call a spikelet when they are actually flowering, and then once they have been pollinated, that'll be a caryopsis or a grain. That's the type of food we find in grasses in the Poaceae. So we're going to chop down this stem over here, and that should give us some grass seeds. You can see some smaller things, most likely some unripe seeds falling from above. And then, plop, there come the big grass seeds. Now these seeds actually would be a great source of food for us as a teeny tiny person, if we could actually get through the very, very tough hull that is. So the outer coating of the seed would most likely make it very difficult for us to actually get inside. But if you were to craft a tool to actually drill into that seed, then we would be able to eat it from the inside out. Now get to the juicy, soft insides. And there we go. We are going to craft a shovel there. This will allow us to dig things up. And then very importantly, we're going to get the hammer as well to bust things like acorns and pebbles and stuff like that, or rocks and stuff like that. In order to upgrade the shovel more, we need the northern scorpion stinger and pine needles. The scorpion, I think, could be found most likely around the oak tree. Pine needles, we'll need to look for a pine tree with some branches lying on the ground. I think that's where we'll find pine needles. And then of course we've got the ladybug head and lingonberry, which is a new resource for Grounded 2. We're going to encounter that, I think, as well. I suspect there's a hedge of some kind which has lingonberry there. And then, as mentioned, roach chunks and blueberry leather that we also need. So I must say, I really am enjoying the fact that you can now just run up to a resource and press, in my case, G to smash it. And then you go, if you wanted to use a shovel, you can just dig it up with G as well. You no longer need to constantly switch tools in order to actually use it. That is a surprisingly nice change, I must say.
Entomophagy is better at this scale.
So there we go. Pete saying entomophagy is better at this scale. So entomo referring to insects, phagy referring to eating. So entomophagy, the eating of insects. I'm not sure why Pete is of the opinion that it's better at this scale. Maybe because, you know, it's like eating an entire chicken or cow. You get a lot of food by eating one of these insects. Or maybe it's not quite as gross as you may initially think it is. You know, if you are the size of the insects you are eating, of the aphids and so on. But entomophagy, or the eating of insects, would be a great way to get all the nutrients you need. Because, well, insects do contain a lot of protein, a lot of fat very often as well. Generally, very, very good source of food. And now with the shovel, of course, we're able to dig up clay as well. And the clay you can generally find in these little puddles, which would make sense. You know, if you've got water flowing downhill, it would carry the finer particles downhill. And puddles tend to collect in little depression areas, little hollows, and that's also then where the clay would be deposited. So to me it makes sense that you'd find clay along these little puddles, so just keep an eye out for them. Now in terms of entomophagy, or the eating of insects, I have eaten some insects, but not a lot. Generally what I've eaten mupani worm, which is the caterpillar of the mupani moth. It was surprisingly tasty, tasted kind of like ground up beef jerky, or biltong as we call it in South Africa, which is slightly different from the jerky you may know. And then I have also eaten termites, and termites are an incredible source of protein and fat, especially if you were to eat the allets, or those flying ones, the reproductive individuals. It's almost like crunchy peanut butter, just not quite, without the peanut butter taste. So I guess it's just crunchy butter, if I had to describe it. But there we go, our tiny house is coming along. We've got a foundation. Next up we're going to put in things like the workbench and stuff like that. But I think I will leave that for next time. So on Tuesday, the next episode is coming out, and we'll be going to start exploring a bit more. And by that time, I may have built a little bit more the structure of our house over here. Of course, in the meantime, on Sunday, I will be live streaming Dawn of Man again, trying to expand our Stone Age village in as environmentally friendly way as possible. So feel free to pop in then 6 o'clock until 8 o'clock African time, and come and join me then for a nice relaxing live stream. And of course, if you want to see how Nick and I played Grounded 1, our live streams, you'll find the playlist right up there. Until next time, everybody, stay safe. I'll see you all soon. Cheers!